Donald Trump.
Fuck Joe Biden.
Refuse to go along with this, and I'm seeing through all of your lies, Barack Obama, you wicked, wicked devil!
I don't know if I can play this without getting hit, so we're gonna talk while it's going.
Yeah, whatever. It's a good reason for us, right? But we can talk about it.
Right, if you talk over it, maybe they won't.
I find it very patriotic and refreshing to hear American music. I don't know who would feel differently, but they should get the fuck out.
Right, but I figured for Memorial Day, we might as well do it. Thank you for all those vets that did what they did to make sure that we can do what we're doing now.
Look, not every soldier is a hero, but if you lay down your life for the country, I respect that.
I was actually thinking of finding, and I actually had it. I was going to do the full version, and then I kind of did some deeper research on the full version, and I'm like, maybe I don't want to do that. It could have been fun, because they say that there's a bunch of racism and hatred that comes along with the other three verses.
I don't think that's true.
I don't think it's true either, but I did. I was listening to it earlier today, and I'm like, I just don't see what they're talking about. But they say that we don't play the other three versions on a regular basis because of the hatred towards England. It's like, well,
You mean the people who were bombing our fort at the time?
Yeah, right. Those people that were coming after us for doing what we wanted to do. Right, exactly. Dumb people.
I mean, do we need to play the one with historical information? Because there's a longer video we could comment on that explains how all of this happened.
If you have it available, let's do it before everybody else shows up. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming AmericaShirts will eventually pop himself in here.
Maybe he's just giving us material.
I'm assuming it was more of a... he was quick throwing some stuff in there. Now he's going to go get something to eat. He'll be back.
Yeah.
It has a tendency to do that. So that's kind of interesting. I like it when you actually scroll across there and you can see where the big bumps are for where everybody watches and where everybody doesn't watch. There's a big, huge space all the way through there, and then it kind of does a little bump, and then it does a big bump towards the end. And it's like, oh, why did that happen?
Because there's a bunch of history in the middle, and then it gets to the song.
The Star-Spangled Banner, as you've never heard it.
There was a lawyer
Perhaps
once. His
the
name was
slightly
Francis
mythical
Scott
version, but it is roughly what happened.
He penned a song that I'm sure you're aware of. You've seen it. It's in most hymnals throughout our churches. It's called the National Anthem. It is our song as an American.
Maybe you've heard of the national anthem.
We go, however, to a ball game. We stand in our church services and we
Maybe
sing the
you've
words
heard
of
it a
that
couple
song,
times or
and they
something.
float over our minds and our lips, and
Once
we don't
or
even
twice.
realize what
Yeah.
we're
It's
singing.
kind of
Most of us have memorized it as a
uncommon,
child,
let's say.
but we've never really thought about it.
Okay, so I really like this particular picture because this guy in the center is sitting there holding the camera with the guy behind him holding the camera. But everybody else is actually doing what they're supposed to do. Like this guy, these guys took their hat off and they're holding their hand over their heart. That's how it works. I just watched so many people that do like this guy back here, and he kind of just holds his hand out in front of him like, I'm just standing here.
At least he's standing and being respectful. Like he may not
yeah,
want to participate, but I appreciate the respect in the moment.
I mean, yeah, I guess. But this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to place your hand over your heart, remove your hat.
Let me tell you a story. Francis Scott Key was a lawyer in Baltimore.
There's a tone all the way through the back
colonies
end
were
of this.
engaged in vicious conflict.
Because like all good dramatic stories, it needs theme music.
Accumulated prisoners
Which is ridiculous. You shouldn't have to have theme music for such a good story.
on both sides. The American colonies had prisoners and the British had prisoners. And the American
We call them prisoners. They weren't slaves.
government initiated a move. They went
Well,
to the British and
they're
they
talking
said,
about white people, so prisoners.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
let's negotiate for
We
the
won't talk
release of
about the
these
Ottoman Empire then, huh?
They said, we want to
enslaving
send a man out to
prisoners
discuss
has
this with
only
you.
an American thing recently.
I'd have to beg to differ. I'm really concerned about these Muslim Uyghurs.
They were holding the American prisoners in boats
that's fair.
about 1,000 yards offshore. And they said, we want to send a man by the name of Francis Scott Key. He will come out and negotiate to see if we can make a mutual exchange. On the appointed day, in a rowboat, he went out to this boat and he negotiated with the British officials. And they reached a conclusion that men could be exchanged on a one-for-one basis. Francis Scott Key,
Prisoner
jubilant with the
swaps,
fact that
very
he...
common.
What's that? What's very common?
I said a prisoner swap, very common during
Oh,
war.
yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Here, we'll give you your people back as you give you my people back.
They're never getting us
Been
off back, though,
successful.
let's be honest.
Went down below in the boats, and what he found was a cargo hold full of humanity, men. And he said, men, I've got
All men?
news for you tonight.
No
You're
women?
free.
Generally,
He said,
soldiers
"Tonight
were
I have
men during that
negotiated
time.
successfully your return to the colonies." He said, you'll be taken out of this boat, out of this filth, out of your chains. As he went back up on board to arrange for their passage to the shore, the admiral came and he said, we have a slight problem. He said, we will still honor our commitment to release these men, but it'll be merely academic after tonight. It won't matter. And Francis Scott Key said, what do you mean?
Uh-oh.
He said, well, Mr. Key, he said, tonight we have laid an ultimatum upon the colonies. Your
It's
people
AmericaShirts.
will either capitulate and
Hello.
lay down the colors of that flag that you think so much of, or you see that fort right over there, Fort Henry? He said, we're going to remove it from the face of the earth. He said, how are you going to do that? He said, if you will, scan the horizon of the sea. And as he looked, he could see hundreds of little dots.
Dun,
And
dun,
he said,
dun.
that's the entire British war fleet. He said, all of the gunpowder, all of the armament is being called upon to demolish that fort. It will be here within striking distance in a matter of about 2.5 hours. He said, the war is over. These men would be free anyway. He said, you can't shell that fort. He said, that's a large fort. He said, it's full of women and children. He says, it's predominantly not a military fort. He said, don't worry.
Not a military fort? So it was a civilian fort. Well, predominantly,
To be
so it
fair,
was
that's
partially.
still true these days. Most bases are full of civilian families, schools,
Right.
that kind of stuff, at least nearby.
I would always think that they were like the civilians were like outside of the fort, like nearby, with a road leading directly to camp or whatever, the fort. But I guess
About it.
things probably
I'm not a
changed quite a bit.
foreknowledge.
Way out. And he said, what's that? He said, do you see that flag way up on the rampart? He said, we have told them that if they will lower that flag, the shelling will stop immediately. And we'll know that they've surrendered, and you'll now be under British rule. Francis Scott Key went down below and told the men what was about to happen.
Clearly how things turned out.
And they said, how many ships? He said, hundreds. The ships got closer. Francis Scott Key went back up on top and he said, men, I'll shout down to you what's going on as we watch. As twilight began to fall, and as the haze hung over the ocean as it does at sunset, Suddenly, the British war fleet unleashed. He says the sound was deafening. There were so many guns that there were no reliefs. He said it was absolutely impossible to talk or hear. He said suddenly the sky, although dark, was suddenly lit. And he says from down below, all he could hear the men, the prisoners, saying was, "Tell us where the flag is. What have they done with the flag? Is the flag still flying over the rampart? Tell us." 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours into the shelling, every time the bomb would explode and it would be close to the flag, they could see the flag in the illuminated red glare of that bomb, and Francis Scott Key would report down to the men below, "It's still up. It's not down." The admiral came and he said, "Your people are insane." He said, "What's the matter with them?" He said, "Don't they understand this is an impossible situation?" Francis Scott Key said he remembered what George Washington had said. He said the thing that sets the American Christian apart from all other people in the world is he will die on his feet before he'll live on his knees.
And sadly, so many people these days live on their fucking knees.
Right?
The admiral said, "We have now instructed all of the guns to focus on the rampart to take that flag down." He said, "We don't understand something. Our reconnaissance tells us that that flag has been hit directly again and again and again, and yet it's still flying. We don't understand that." But he said, "Now we're about to bring every gun for the next 3 hours to bear on that point." Francis Scott Key said the barrage was unmerciful. All that he could hear was the men down below praying. The prayer, "God, keep that flag flying where we last saw it." Sunrise came. He said there was a heavy mist hanging over the land, but the rampart was tall enough. There stood the flag, completely nondescript, in shreds. The flagpole itself was at a crazy angle, but the flag was still at the top. Francis Scott Key went aboard and immediately went into Fort Henry to see what had happened. And what he'd found had happened was that that flagpole and that flag had suffered repetitious direct hits. And when it had fallen, but men, fathers, who knew what it meant for that flag to be on the ground, although knowing that all of the British guns were trained on it, walked over and held it up humanly until they died. Their bodies were removed and others took their place. Francis Scott Key said what held that flagpole in place at that unusual angle were patriots' bodies. He penned the song, "Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? Or the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that the flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet fly and wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? The debt was demanded. The price, it was paid."
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets break through, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Figured we could all do with a little history lesson today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How's AmericaShirts doing?
Good.
We've missed you.
Have you?
Of course.
Always.
Who doesn't enjoy your witty commentary?
He called me witty.
He called me witty. Oh, man. So, welcome back to another Dynastic with Koolfrogg. Yeah, that was a nice little history lesson that we threw at you before we went too far. Anybody that doesn't know that song really should actually educate themselves.
Yes, it is one of the most inspiring stories in American history. Hence, the song being our national anthem.
So, I had set this up as you guys were throwing things in there, so I'm like, oh, okay. I have to actually pull up all these clips here real quick and get myself set.
Oh, those Rumble clips, you want to try to go full screen.
Oh, yeah, we will eventually. Oh, yeah. Let's see here. There's a lot. There's a lot. We're going to have some fun tonight. What the? Everybody okay? Something happened there.
Hello?
Hello?
What? Where?
What? Huh?
Where? When?
I just heard a really weird tone. That's all. All right. Let's see here. So, in no particular order, these are the clips that these two had thrown at me today. I didn't do any of the research for this. This is the only thing I did is I set up the very first clip, which was the original Star Spangled Banner that I had played before we went through the history lesson. So, let's see here. Who's this guy? Henry Kissinger. Anybody know who this guy is?
Oh, that bastard.
He is the guy who engineered the American Empire through the middle of the last century, including fantastic things like our wars in Southeast Asia.
Also helped to initiate and set up the World Economic Forum itself, putting
He is
Klaus
the
Schwab at the
engineer
head.
of the world order.
Him and oh god, Brzezinski. And I mean, there's other people as well, but yeah, I mean, Kissinger.
I mean, if we're
Biggest
going to blame
name.
one man, I would blame Kissinger.
Oh yeah, yeah.
For almost everything. While you guys were talking, I was looking at the books in the back. Her Majesty's Secret Service. Not the. I'm not sure what the second blue book is there. It's usually you can tell like, something about the person by the stuff that's behind them.
In my view, a movement towards
By the way, he's 98 years old.
and
And still more coherent than Biden.
peace
Literally,
need to begin in the next 2 months.
that is not an
or so.
exaggeration.
The
He
Ever.
literally has a book called World Order.
should be outlined by them before it creates upheavals and tensions that will not be even harder to overcome. And particularly between the eventual relationship of Russia towards Europe and of Ukraine towards Europe. Ideally, the dividing line should return to the status quo ante. I believe pursuing the war beyond that point would turn it into a war not about the freedom of Ukraine, which has been undertaken with great cohesion by NATO, but into a war against Russia itself. And so this seems to me to be the dividing line that it is just and possible to define, and it will be difficult.
Thought I'd throw that up there to start with, I guess, because you all kind of ended with that a little bit there yesterday. So this is Kissinger agreeing with the, reality of the situation, which is that Russia is winning the war, and they will seize the eastern half of Ukraine not seize. Well, I guess it is seize the eastern half of Ukraine. And of course, like 95% of the people there are ethnically Russian, and they speak Russian anyway. So it's like, what the hell? And and the other new thing is that I don't know. Did you guys talk about this yesterday? Did not pay attention to this, but like Poland is talking about, like there's people in Poland talking about like a merger between Eastern Ukraine and Poland now. You guys, did anybody bring that up yesterday? That I was
Did not. I've never heard such a thing.
Oh my god! Like
That's crazy.
There are because initially that place that's in Ukraine right there, that was initially Poland for like hundreds of years.
Yeah.
I mean, that was Polish area. And then, of course, as you move farther east, it's more Russian. And so you have more Slavic regions. And then, of course, Ukrainian has always been this people group that's kind of flip-flopped between, Poland and Russia. They've never been their own independent nation because they've either been from Russian descent, or if you go farther more westward, it's more of a more Polish background, to be perfectly honest, because they were underneath the Polish-Lithuanian Empire, for example, and even before Polish-Lithuania came together, they were still underneath of Poland. and they were still part of Ukraine. There's even a traditional Polish song talking about the eastern regions of Poland being Ukraine, and like we'll find like he's like the song is like we'll find the pretty lady in the Ukraine or whatever. Like you have to go off into the east, find the woman in the Ukraine, and they talk about the plains, the eastern portions of Poland. So they're talking about like having a new, and it's just conversations going on right now. Like it's nothing official per se, but there's already tons of Ukrainians moving into Poland, and then Poland's bringing stuff over there, and so they're just kind of like they're already giving Ukrainians the
Has
right to
Poland
vote in
deployed
Poland.
troops to Ukraine?
They haven't done that, but that's one of the discussions.
I
Like
heard that
that's
they
what's
at
going
least
on,
were talking about it. Yeah.
right? And that's what
So
it is. It's
they
like,
hadn't personally, but NATO has sent troops. So I mean, Poland's part of NATO. I mean, so I mean, there may be some that fly that flag, but not necessarily actually Poland telling them to actually go there.
Well, we know a lot of foreign quote-unquote mercenaries got captured in Azovstal, and similarly, they're part of the 16,000 being surrounded outside Donbass.
Oh, yeah.
Quote-unquote mercenaries.
Yeah. So my thinking is that again, everything's failing, and so well they're making it all fail purposefully. And so what do you do to distract from that? You take everybody to war. But unfortunately, Russia's winning this war and wants to see an end to this conflict very soon, and then put a stop to it, and then sort of leave whatever's left over of Ukraine as its own thing. Hopefully, it'll come together. I think Putin wishes for it to come together in some sort of an alliance type of trade treaty type of thing between Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia, like was originally going to happen. What some of the agreements originally they wanted to have that happen. I think like early 2000s and stuff, and then of course you had the Orange Revolution, and then after that, like full blown overthrow in 2014. Several years after that, but Putin wants to see that kind of thing come back. But he is going to take that portion of Ukraine because it's he can't trust it to not.
I mean, it happened. Like, we're talking about it as if this is some future plan. He owns all of southeast Ukraine at this point. Like, they have their land bridge to Crimea. They're about to crush 16,000 troops, the main combat force of Ukraine in eastern Ukraine. What does he have left to accomplish?
Well, but the thing is that if Poland decides to try and have some sort of like a merger of some kind with the eastern portion of Ukraine, will they push the border of NATO directly
Do you mean the
against
western
Russia?
portion?
I mean, yeah, the western portion. Sorry, yeah, the western.
Okay, sorry. Just
So,
want
like,
to be clear here. Yeah.
right. Yeah, I mean, we know what Poland is. What the hell? But like, but like, like if they take that part, they will push the border of NATO right onto this. So my thinking is that Mr. Kissinger here, the AntiChrist's right-hand man, as some people like to call him, and Bill Gates, they like to, oh yeah, there it is. There's a Poland and Ukraine. Yeah. So, but if they push the border, and it would push the border of NATO right up against Russia, and then by then you would have direct
the new
conflict.
nation of Nova Russia, where the DPR currently is, would be the new border state.
Oh, so you think they are going to set up another, like, Donetsk republic there?
I would
Like, as
expect that
another
Russia
country.
will consolidate a lot of this into some kind of border country rather than claim direct ownership. But maybe not. Maybe they'll just keep it all.
I mean, because that's what I'm thinking, because a lot of the infrastructure in Crimea, I mean, Crimea is already theirs. It's been theirs forever. And then now they just moved in, and they moved in overhead. So it's like, well, the Donetsk People's Republics have sent tons of requests to be a part of Russia. And then Crimea is already a part
I was
of
unaware
Russia.
of that detail. If they've asked to be part of Russia, Russia might just annex it then.
I mean, yeah, they've had 2 or 3 times they've sent, Russia, like, hey, like, we want to become part of Russia. We got to become part of Russia. And then finally, Russia said, like, okay, we're going to help you. We're going to assist you. We consider you ally states. And again, Crimea is already theirs. They've taken over that northern portion above Crimea. And then, as you said, like, down against the Black Sea in areas. So my opinion would be they would probably just take all of that, because Russia itself needs some of that infrastructure and would love to have that Black Sea territory, so they can have naval vessels and
And
things
the
like
land
that.
bridge.
Yeah. And
I
so,
was talking to a Ukrainian friend, and he pointed out a lot of the transport infrastructure through Mariupol is why that area was so important to Russian interests. And now that they have it, they're unlikely to give it up.
oh yeah, and there's other different things of infrastructure there from the old Soviet Union, even like pipelines and other different things or whatever. Different like
I think
stuff from infrastructure.
I was gonna say, I think reality is setting in for Europe that it's one thing to talk big, and it's another thing to not have to buy Russian oil and gas. And that second thing just can't happen this year. Because if Russia turns off the gas tap in October, they're all just screwed.
Yeah. But if Poland goes right up against the Russian border, I mean, that would spell insta war. So my thinking is Kissinger's here, like, and other people are saying, like, oh, Kissinger's recognizing reality. Yeah, maybe it's because they're thinking that maybe they can try to get Poland to, and of course, the allies of NATO, to eat up what's left over of Ukraine after the eastern half of Ukraine has been severed and taken by Russia. They'll take off that other portion of Ukraine, or at least a decent chunk, and so Ukraine either will cease to exist as a country or will be this tiny sliver borderland, which I doubt that would even be, because they want war. I mean, let's be clear, like they were doing their best in eastern Ukraine now, and so I think Plan B is in the works that they would like to see accomplished. Now, I don't know if it will be, but Poland and some people in Poland seem to be very interested in this. They would love to have some other lands that used to be theirs. Because really, where Poland is now, it's not. Well, like portions of it were traditionally Poland, but other portions of it were traditionally Germany. Ukraine has always been, at that very western portion, has always been more Polish. Has always been in that sort of. It's not Russian Slavic, but it's a little more like, Polish and Slovakian type Slavic. So, like the Ruthenians. I think I put up a map of the Ruthenians at one point, like the Ruthenian kingdom.
So because you guys are talking
It was
about
the same
Polish,
color as Ukraine, but it was within the Polish Commonwealth.
right?
After a while, that kingdom, and
So-
then eventually that land, which was western portions of Ukraine. So anyway,
Being that you guys were talking about Polish and Ukraine, Poland and Ukraine or whatever, I kind of went and did a Google search or whatever, see if I could come up with anything. And it basically it sounded like, according to this particular article, this is from the New Eastern Europe, who written a couple days ago, 3 days ago, is though such amicable ties are to be welcomed, history has shown that Poland and Ukraine have not always enjoyed harmonious relations. Under the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, whose territory included western Ukraine, the nobility developed rural plantations and placed onerous burdens on the peasantry. This has in turn led to Cossack rebellion in the 17th century. When the Commonwealth was partitioned in the following century, the Habsburg Empire took the province of Galicia for itself. However, Polish nobility and landlords were allowed to retain their social and economic privileges. Meanwhile, the provincial capital of Lemberg, currently Lviv, witnessed social tensions as Poles and Ukrainians regarded the town as vital real estate and in their own struggles for national self-determination. Needless to say, Jews were caught in the middle of such conflicts, with both Poles and Ukrainians committing programs against the city's local Jewish population in the first half of the 20th century. With the Empire collapse after the First World War, tensions boiled over and the Poles and Ukrainians fought each other for control of the city. A bloody war ensued until, at long last, the newly independent Poland managed to take over Lemberg. So, I mean, there's been war after war after war for this particular territory. And this particular article brings the Second World War. It brings up all the world wars, all the wars that have been fought, and it just so happens to be that Ukraine just so happens to have something to do with every single one of them. It does say that Poland is generously providing Ukrainians with access to the country's labor market as well as health and social benefits. Locals are now opening up their homes to those in need. Convoys passing over the border, meanwhile, have acted as a lifeline for Ukraine by providing medical and military supplies. Indeed, Poland has become strategic linchpin, supplying Ukraine and U.S. manufactured Stinger missiles and Javelin anti-tank weapons. This equipment is vital to Kiev as to turn the tide. So, I mean, it sounds like, Poland is actually opening their doors and actually trying to help Ukraine as much as they possibly can, as well as sending, military strength, U.S. manufactured Stingers. I mean, yeah, they're manufactured in the U.S., but we had given Poland access to these particular weapons for the longest time. This isn't anything that, just us and let's give Poland some stuff. No, they've had it because of NATO. They've had it for a long time. The article's kind of interesting when it comes down to it. I mean, as Ukraine and Poland draw near to the time of crisis, the echoes of turbulent history still beckon. So, I mean, there's still some tensions between them, but there seem to be allowing, Ukrainians to come across that border, and
they're giving them voting rights.
Basically just giving them rights as a citizen of Poland.
Yeah, full-blown rights as a citizen. And that's the thing where it's just like, well, what the hell? All of these people that just flew out of here, we're giving them full-on rights as Polish citizens. And so then people are just like, oh, well, why don't we just like eat up Western Ukraine? And then all these people can go back to their home and then they'll all be like Polish citizens. It's like these talks are going around. And so I could see where this part of the war, like Ukraine, may not be the thing, but now they're wanting to maybe use Poland with Ukraine to go after Russia directly to get the war that they want. And maybe then after that, they think somehow if they win this, they'll take back Ukraine, and then Ukraine will be the NATO state. Then they can take Russia and then split Russia up 7 ways or whatever the hell their NATO has a plan for it. And like they have a plan to split Russia up into several different nations, even for that matter.
More likely to happen to the U.S. than Russia.
But that's the goings on with that.
So then this guy, former Polish foreign minister, reacts to Kissinger's suggestion that Ukraine cede territory. So he's going to go and he's going to actually say something about what you just watched.
CNN alert. This is probably misinformation.
It is CNN. So, for what it is, take it with a...
Radek Sikorski, I'm privileged to have as a guest. He has served as Poland's Minister of Defense, Foreign Minister, and Speaker of Parliament.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing.
Sikorski, you know that our former Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger, died.
Say that again? I'm sorry. I didn't pause it in time.
That's the other thing I forgot. Ukraine is officially trying to name Kissinger as a traitor, and a lot of people are talking about that in the Ukrainian news and everything else because Zelensky has like gone full dictator mode, and like all media is ripped out except for state media, and all parties are ripped out except for Zelensky's party and the Yahtzees. And so the party, some of the people need the political parties, and then their mainstream press, which is state press again. Well, not as much different here, but they're trying to name Kissinger. Some of these people don't even know who the hell Kissinger is, and they're like, "Oh, Kissinger! Oh, listen to this old guy." They're like, "He's a traitor. He's traitorous to Ukraine. Anything he says is just just dismiss it. Like he's a traitorous guy. He's this, he's that." Because you know how crazy the Yahtzee people get when it's wartime, right? So it's like, oh my God.
If Kissinger is the one calling you a crazy warmonger, you should probably sober up.
I mean, literally.
Just a little.
I mean, this is the guy who wrote the National Security Study Memorandum 200, implications of world population growth, calling for reduction in the world's
He
population.
literally wrote a book called World Order where he explains the world order he engineered.
So, like, when this guy who loves all these things, who loves war, who loves all this kind of stuff, tells you, "Hey, you need to stop," yeah, you're off in. You are beyond La La Land. You are like in Stupidville at this point. Anyway.
When the New York Times, who was cheerleading this war 2 months ago, is going, guys, military victory isn't possible. You may need to think about what you're doing.
But hey, we just spent $40 billion on military intelligence, CIA, and all the rest of this bullshit. In the $40 billion sent to Ukraine, and then now everybody's like, well, maybe we shouldn't do that. It's like, really? So this wasn't a money laundering scandal, Ted Cruz, the person who said that we should totally vote for this bill, because, oh my God, if we don't stand up to Russia, oh, well, shit, we're gonna tell them to. It's like it's like less than like 2 weeks, and it's like, now we're all talking about how we're not gonna.
It's okay. Only $6 billion of that was actually going to Ukraine.
Oh yeah, right. But then the rest of it, but you see what I'm saying? It's like it's all bullshit. And yet we have freaking mainstream conservative senators, and they're like, "Oh my God, yes, we have to do it." I was like, "Oh my God, I can't stand it."
Can't stand it.
Dr. Kissinger said this week that he thinks Ukraine needs to be prepared to cede land to Russia if that's what it'll take to bring about peace. What reaction do you have to that?
Dr. Kissinger is a great man, but I disagree with him on this, both as regards substance as form. The Obama administration advised the Ukrainians not to fight in Crimea. That didn't stop Putin. It emboldened him. If he'd been confronted for his annexation, for his rally into the Donbass, maybe we wouldn't have this war now. He needs to be defeated in the Donbass, because otherwise we'll find him in a few years' time on the NATO border. And also, remember, Ukrainians have politics too, and such advice, even when well meant, should be given in private, because Mr. Zelensky also has rivals, and it's his people who are being raped, kidnapped, deported, and murdered. And it's very difficult to make such deals in a democratic country.
Rival Nazis.
Does this end by negotiation, or must it take the outright defeat of Vladimir Putin to bring about peace?
Remember, Putin wants all of Ukraine. He denies Ukraine the right to exist. He doesn't believe Ukraine is a separate nation. And on occupied territory, they're actually exterminating Ukrainian culture, Ukrainian elites, the very notion of Ukraine. And so I don't see that the Russian...
I mean, to be fair, they've been trying to do away with, Ukraine for a long time. I mean, every single war that's occurred, they've raped and pillaged their way through to actually make people more and more like themselves. When you rape people and you actually, they actually have children, I mean, those children become, more and more Russian than they do Ukraine. So, I mean, they're disgusting. But, at the same time...
red lines and the Ukrainian red lines meet at any point. It would be good for Putin to lose so that Russia, the broad elites, learn that neo-imperialism is costly and doesn't work.
You know that right now the Biden administration and the Pentagon are trying to make a final decision as to whether to supply Ukraine...
I can hear the pea-sized brain in that bald-headed bastard's head shake around like a goddamn rattler from a 2-year-old. Like he's just shaking his head up and down like a million miles. If he's shaking his head that violently when it's sped up, he's doing it almost at speed and normal speed. Like he's just like yeah. Like I just can't stand this damn. I can see that.
Okay, that was good enough. We got a good one. Okay, let's see. What did you guys post next? Jimmy Dore.
Oh no, what did he do?
He was talking about the NYT article, New York Times, who says essentially the same thing as Mr. Kissinger.
So we've told you how it's going to end in Ukraine. It's going to end however Vladimir Putin wants it to end. But how it's going to end is they're going to keep the Crimea. They're going to keep the section of the Donbass. It's going to stay under Russian control. That's what's going to happen. That's how I see it happening. And even Henry Kissinger said that
happening.
That's exactly what we had pointed out yesterday. It looked like that was what was happening. Is they were going to keep the Donbass, they're going to keep Crimea, and that whole territory in between.
I mean,
Ukraine
that
has to
wasn't what they wanted initially with their relationship with Ukraine. However, because of all this goings on that's been happening, and the Donbass cannot protect itself from the full weight and force of NATO, uh, and that area, and then of course, if that area falls, you're right up against the border with Russia and more of Russian heartland territory, and then you are less than 2 minutes away from rockets hitting Moscow at that point if you're in the Donbass, like if you put rockets right in the Donbass. So he has to take that now. So,
Well, and he has
because
to
I've
buy the
had in my
balls.
previous
He controls
videos on
both.
Rumble where I was talking about, like they don't want to, come in there and like conquer and seize territory per se, but that's what's going to end up happening because the Donbass cannot protect itself. They don't have the infrastructure, they don't have the military, they don't have any of that. And so to protect to keep an area to push back against potential NATO from getting closer and closer to official Russian heartland, he's got to take that. And of course, like we said, he has Crimea. They need some of that infrastructure in that area, so they're just going to take that eastern area, probably.
Well, and they took
up
a
to
lot
the
of
river.
key assets, right? They took over the wheat shipping infrastructure. Most of it can't go through Odessa because you would have to ship it by train across the country, and there just isn't the volume for that. So as long as Putin controls those Black Sea ports, between Russian and Ukrainian food, he just has everyone by the balls. That and the gas supply. And so, congratulations on taking McDonald's away. How are you going to feed your people without wheat? And maybe the US is fine, but most countries will not be, and they're smart enough to realize it. That's why no one supported the UN sanctions.
I don't see the US being fine on that. I really don't. I don't think the U.S. would be fine on that because you know dang well that our idiot administration it's currently there, they're gonna sit there and be like, well, we need to feed the rest of the world.
Okay,
we don't need to worry about
anyone
ourselves.
but Biden,
and they're already
the
shutting
US
off
would
our
be
food
fine.
supply already. They're already shutting off our domestic food supply. They're already shutting off domestic means of fertilizer production. Foreign bringing in a fertilizer production, of course, Russia and Belarus being the largest in the world of the creation of fertilizer. So, and then of course you see all of the blowing up of all these different food plants. And then now we see this past week or so, there's like 3 different train wrecks, all of which are food and other supplies that have to pertain to food. So it's like, I mean, they don't want this to, and of course the baby formula shortage, like we're not going to be okay when it comes time to the fall. With everything that happened with Koof from the past 2 years, and then now you have all of this stuff purposefully being enacted, and everything like the global supply chain. 15% of wheat production in the world comes from Ukraine. Okay, you're talking the entire North African, and all of North Africa and the Middle East gets, I think it's like half, if not more, of their grains from Ukraine itself.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking a depletion of the world's wheat supply by 15%. And then, of course, with it already being reduced, I mean, like the effects of this is just going to be massive.
Don't forget, Russia also controls a similar sized amount directly. They're
they
a
have
major
a lot
supplier of wheat and petrofuels for fertilizer.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I mean. Like, yeah, Russia's with fertilizer,
between the two
Belarus
of
with
them,
fertilizer.
They own food production for a substantial fraction of the world. If they tell NATO to get fucked, everyone's going to starve unless they go along with it. Hope you enjoy buying wheat in rubles.
I don't have any rubles.
Yeah, that sucks, huh?
I think somebody needs to help me out and go to like the PayPal thing down below or whatever and throw me some rubles, man.
Oh my God! Don't say that. The FBI, CIA will be knocking on your door. He's a traitor.
I mean, you can make it U.S. dollars. I can convert it. I'll figure out how to convert it if I need to. U.S. dollars work.
Sure, will convert to us. Stay to the camps. The camps is you.
Cede territory to Russia to end this, whether they want to or not. So how does it end? Fissures emerge over what constitutes victory in Ukraine. So let me just show. Let me go all the way to the end.
Go to the end of this
So here's how
New
it's
York
gonna
Times
end.
article.
So right now, in pink, this is all controlled by Russia. This is the Donbass, right, Jackson? I got this right.
Yes.
That's what
So
this
there's
legend
Donetsk,
says.
There's Luhansk. This is, and so Russia has all this, and the purple is held by Ukraine. Okay, you see? All right, you see the problem? So this is all going to stay with Russia. So this is Mariupol is over here. We talked about that.
For them to put hold on there, it's territory that they regained is pretty much what that purple was. It wasn't that, they're currently holding it, but it's territory that was taken from them, and they're actually trying to get it back.
That's where they defeated the Nazis, the Azov Battalion, and
At the evacuation zone?
that's where they evacuated.
He called them what they were. He seriously called them what they were. It's nice.
Evacuated to prison camps.
So these are the evacuated areas.
So this is all going to go to Russia, right? Would you agree with that, Jackson?
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
Because when they had, in 2014, when the United States helped overthrow the Ukraine government and install people who were friendly to Nazis, they were supposed to leave this area
That look
alone.
on his face
this is the
is
eastern part of
cold.
Ukraine. They were supposed to leave this alone because all these people speak Russian,
The Minsk agreements.
and they didn't want to
which
go
were
along with the
orchestrated
coup.
by, I believe, France and
and
Germany.
because they don't like Nazis, and they have an affinity to Russia. So the Ukraine Nazis started shelling these people. They've been doing it for 8 years. They killed 14,000 of the people in this area. So finally, after being provoked, Russia then came in to protect these people and to keep Ukraine from joining NATO. That's two of the big reasons. So that's how this is going to end. So here's what they say. So the important thing is they're starting to say it in the New York Times.
Just for a second, because you can see where it says at the top where the purple is with Kharkiv. They're going to take that back, and then they're going to go from there, and they might go clear to the river. But they might even go maybe somewhere around it, but right around where the river is, it goes down through. They'll go a little past Kharkiv, maybe, and then just kind of go. You can almost see, they'll just take the area. You can see the arrows are going. They'll go straight down, they'll go straight up, and they'll just take the whole midsection there, and then that whole area is going to be Nova
and if
Russia.
you look on a more detailed map, you can see Russia is in fact holding at the river right now, where they have pushed from the Ukrainian side up to the river, and Russia's just shelling them across it, so no one will move either direction.
Oh yeah, see this map is from May 19th. There's 11 days of change. Do you have that map that we had up yesterday?
Yes. Sorry, let me.
No, you're okay. Take your time. While you're finding that,
For
we'll just
8
kind of
years, they killed 14,000 of the people in this area.
finish
So
off this segment
finally,
again.
after being provoked, Russia then came in to protect these people and to keep Ukraine from joining NATO.
Yeah.
It's this one. It's kind of oops.
So what is this map showing us here? The red, and
This
then
is-
what's the other bluish color?
That bluish color is places Russia previously occupied that have been reclaimed by Ukraine.
So scroll back out a little bit more, because I know you were showing these yesterday. But so what are you saying here about the river and whatever? What do you?
If you go up by Kharkiv and zoom in on that area, you can see a little to the right. Your other right. You can see where the red and blue meet is down along a river, and so there's just not going to be any crossing from either side of that river until someone's army runs out of ammunition. They'll just sit there shelling each other.
if you zoom out a little more to where you can see almost the whole country, you see the big river that separates where it looks like it cuts some lakes or whatever, like
Just
right
through
through
here?
there. It cuts through angularly, right?
Uh-huh.
They'll probably go where it said where it was formerly occupied by Ukraine up there, and of course you see how they've taken all of that area extending down
All-
to Crimea. They may try to sweep back through Kharkiv and that general area and just go down south and then just sort of take that whole eastern portion is what I
I'm
think.
kind of
What
with
I think
Mike with you from yesterday is that they're going to take this that's outlined in red, which is the Donbass or whatever. They're going to keep Crimea because that's always been, and they're going to keep this area in between, and they'll eventually
I
leave
would
the rest
expect
of them.
the pincer on the right to close. So you can see how they have the Ukrainian army surrounded there, and they're sort of pushing down. I would expect that to close up and then take sort of that plains area, but not northwards towards Kharkiv.
And then of
And
course they
so,
got the
in practice, that will be them taking over the Russian-speaking portions of the country because the sort of southern districts are where they speak Russian. And sort of going from that red gun right above the blue circles down towards the land bridge would give them enough buffer around Donetsk to keep Ukraine from shelling it in the future. So just sort of pincer between the two red areas from there down.
Oh, and another thing, if you scroll out more so you can see the whole country, go look more towards the western portion. Oh, that's good right there. See the western portion there? See where the river goes down, right? If you see that blue dot, it looks like, what is that, a megaphone or whatever? That
Mm-hmm.
there. If you just
It's
almost take a
just
line almost straight down or diagonally to the left a little bit, that western portion there, that's traditionally been more of like Poland and I think even Romania had that at one point to a certain degree. But that western, very western area is what we're talking about. You can see Poland and Ukraine share a significant border there, and they're talking about just going like, "Hey, let's have like a some merger activity going on here. We'll kind of, somehow unify, or maybe it'll just become Poland. I don't know." And then, Poland will sort of eat up some of Western Ukraine, or maybe all of it, or I don't know.
I mean, you'd almost think that Russia would at some point in time want to try connecting to this other territory that they have way up here. Between Poland and Lithuania. You'd think that maybe they'll work that way someday, and continue to destroy everything in its way.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time Russia and someone in Europe divided up a country.
Right? Probably won't be the last.
You can kind of see where it would make sense. Like, see how the river goes diagonally? Like, if like most of that eastern section through there has always traditionally been Russian. And then, of course, you can even go beyond the river to a certain degree, and that's been traditionally Russian, and then that's been other. Ukraine has never been its own sovereign nation until after the fall of the Soviet Union. And then while it was in the Soviet Union, it was carved out of Russia and Poland because the Soviet Union split Poland in two with Mr. Leader of the Third Reich over there in Germany in World War II. They split that in two, and then that western portion there was originally part of Poland there to a certain degree. And Belarus wasn't even its own country at that point either. That was part of Russia. So, I mean, this is sort of a thing that used to be part of the Soviet Union, and then, of course, now has been adopted in the sort of new world order. And so, with NATO hopefuls or NATO allies, and that's what's happened there. So you can kind of see where a lot of people were talking before where it would make sense to divide it. But Russia is still staying more east And somehow, some way, whether they do extend to Kharkiv or whether they just take what Mike was saying, just like that little section there, and just close that off right there, and they just keep that. I'm still of the opinion I think they might want to try to. I think they're going to try to take Kharkiv and go south even more and really close it all off. But I don't know.
They might take Odessa and connect over to the separatist part of Moldova. I find that more likely than they push up into Kharkiv.
Which is over here where this little... I mean, it kind of makes sense. Just cut them off. Just take it all. Second you cut them off...
Ukraine's totally screwed, right? All of the oil and wheat now goes through Russian territory, and good game.
Right.
But anyways.
So, let's go back to Jimmy Dore, I guess.
Oh yeah, that's what we're watching.
That's two of the big reasons. So that's how this is going to end. So here's what they say. So the important thing is they're starting to say it in the New York Times. So let me just show you what the New York Times is saying. Okay, here we go. 3 months into Russia's invasion of Ukraine, America and its allies are quietly debating the inevitable question, how does it end? I already told you, but let's listen to what they say. In recent days, presidents and prime ministers, as well as the Democratic and Republican Party leaders in the United States, have called for victory in Ukraine. But just beneath the surface are real divisions about what that would look like and whether victory has the same definition in the United States and Europe, and perhaps most importantly, in Ukraine. In the past few days alone, there has been an Italian proposal for a ceasefire, a vow from Ukraine's leadership to push Russia back to the borders that existed before the invasion launched on February 24th, and renewed discussion by administration officials about a strategic defeat for President Vladimir Putin, one that would assure that he is incapable of mounting a similar attack again. At a moment when the United States refers to Russia as a pariah state that needs to be cut off from the world economy, others, largely in Europe, are warning of the dangers of isolating and humiliating Putin.
And if you could pause this
the
for just a
administration
second,
now sees a chance to...
It's just like what they do with the illegal aliens that come across the southern border, and then they tell us that, oh, we love them so much. No, you don't. You're using them, and you're abusing them. It's the same thing with Ukraine. It's like, oh, we love Ukraine so much, you hate Ukraine. No, you hate Ukraine. You want to screw Ukraine for your own selfish interests to go after Russia. That's all the hell this is. We're the people that stand here and we're like, wait a minute, let's care about humanity for a second, and let's not be globalist bastards, and let's actually, you know, like, you guys do your thing in your own nation and deal with your problems there, and then stop trying to do all this globalist bullshit because of all of what they want to do, using all of these different people groups to do this, whether it's Ukraine or others, or, you know, like in our own southern border, to try to accomplish their goals. They are using them and abusing them. We're the people that care about humanity. We're the people that care about people in this world and people in our own countries. They don't. So that's
also what they mean by isolate and humiliate Putin is that he laughed in their face and told them to get fucked. If they want gas and wheat, they pay in rubles. And now they're facing the reality of that. That sucks.
If that was to happen, not only would we have a food shortage and a food crisis here in the fall, but we would also have a dollar crisis. So not only would the food be shorted, but also the value of the dollar would be plummeted to lengths at which we have never seen. And that's going to drive up everything. And of course, you already have inflation. And then that just further devalues. So it's just, we're going to probably see a giant, enormous shit show this fall when it comes to the economy
few months, right?
And the dollar itself.
I mean, you have to think about it, we're already 6 months into the year. You know,
October is 3 months away. Sorry, 4 months away.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's coming real quick.
Punish Russian aggression, weaken Mr. Putin, shore up NATO and transatlantic alliance, and send a message to China too. Along the way, it wants to prove that aggression is not rewarded with territorial gains. The differences over war aims broke into the open at the World Economic Forum in Davos this week, as Henry Kissinger, of all freaking people, the 99-year-old former Secretary of State, suggested that Ukraine would likely have to give up some territory.
We're sorry we said that wrong earlier, Mr. Kissinger.
Yes.
In a negotiated settlement, though he added that ideally the dividing line should be a return to the status quo before the invasion, which included the Russian annexation of Crimea in 2014 and the seizure of parts of the Donbass, like I just told you. Henry Kissinger can see how this is going to end. He said it's going to end just like as I told you at the top of this segment. Almost immediately, President Zelensky of Ukraine accused Kissinger of appeasement.
Yes. Kissinger doesn't understand Nazis and appeasement.
Retorting angrily that I get the sense that instead of the year 2022, Kissinger has 1938 on his calendar. So he's saying that because if he goes along with a negotiated settlement, the Nazis will kill him inside of Ukraine.
True.
That's why Zelensky can't.
I mean, I would almost believe that would actually happen. Yeah.
That's why that Ukrainian advisor on CNN said that they can't do that for internal politics because the Nazis will kill the regime.
Kill him inside of Ukraine. That's why Zelensky can't go for a negotiated peace settlement. He was referring to the year Hitler began his sweep across Europe, the event that caused Mr. Kissinger, then a teenager, to flee with his family to New York. Nobody heard from him then that it was necessary to adapt to the Nazis instead of fleeing them or fighting them. So that's what. So there's.
Nobody heard from him than that it was necessary to adapt to the Nazis instead of fleeing them or fighting them. I mean, I guess.
So they're saying that, hey, Kissinger fled. Differing objectives, of course, make it all the more difficult to define what victory or even a muddled peace would look like. And they foreshadow a coming debate about what position Mr. Zelensky and his Western allies would take if negotiations to end the conflict finally get going. But Mr. Zelensky has at various moments voiced contradictory views on what it would take to end the war, even offering to commit his country to neutrality rather than aspiring to join NATO. If Mr. Zelensky agreed to some concessions, would the United States and his allies lift many of their crushing sanctions, including the export controls that have forced Russia to shutter some of its factories for building tanks? Or would doing that doom their hopes of crippling Russia's future capabilities?
They are 100% going to try and starve Africa to cripple Russians' production of tanks. Right up until Africa tells the U.S. to get fucked, they're not selling them resources unless they get wheat.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if you really, oh, damn, what the hell?
Pay us in wheat, bro. Fuck the dollars.
Right?
American officials say the hard choices
I'll be right back.
will have to be made by Mr. Zelensky and his government, but they are acutely aware that if Mr. Putin gets his land bridge to Crimea or sanctions are partially lifted, Mr. Biden will be accused by Republican critics and perhaps some Democrats of essentially rewarding Putin for his effort to redraw the map of Europe by force. So do you see what they're saying is if Biden does the right thing, they're going to call it
we can do that.
That's what they say. NATO and European Union have been surprisingly united so far in supporting Ukraine, both with painful economic sanctions aimed at Russia and in supplying an increasing quantity of weapons to Ukraine, though no jet fighters or advanced tanks.
Because jet fighters and advanced tanks are what's going to win the war.
Well, those also require training, which Ukraine doesn't have.
But they know how to use everything else that we...
Well, it's a little easier to use an NLAW than an advanced fighter.
I mean, Give me the
Can't
fighter
point
jet.
and click,
I'll
bro.
figure it out.
But the unity is under strain. Hungary, which has supported 5 earlier sanction packages, has balked at an embargo on Russian oil. There's a fissure. And the Europeans are not even trying, at least for now, to cut off their imports of Russian gas. Fissure. France, Italy, and Germany, the biggest and richest countries of the bloc, are anxious about a long war, or one that ends frozen in a stalemate, and nervous of the possible damage to their own economies. Those countries also think of Russia as an inescapable neighbor that cannot be isolated forever. Fisher. Zelensky has said repeatedly that he wants the Russians pushed back to where they were on February 23rd before the large-scale invasion started. Only then, he has said, would Ukraine be prepared to negotiate seriously again with Russia about the siege. Now, he's saying that because the Nazis will kill him if he doesn't. He said again this week that the war will have to end with a diplomatic solution, not a sweeping military victory. But even those aims are considered by some European officials and military experts to be ambitious. To get there, Ukraine would have to take back Kherson and the ravaged city of Mariupol. It would have to push Russia out of its land bridge to Crimea and stop Russia from annexing large parts of Donetsk and Luhansk. Many experts fear that is beyond Ukraine's capability. So that's not going to happen.
Most of this war is against their capability.
And so when Zelensky says, I'm not going to negotiate
Literally
until we
everyone
get...
believes that's beyond their capability. Anyone who does this has been high on their own supply for too long.
I mean, they need our help to continue, or NATO's help to continue anyway. They didn't have capability to do anything. They'd have been done already if it weren't for NATO.
Yes.
That's not. He's bullshitting.
Of course,
they're going to have to negotiate or be crushed.
Without NATO, quote unquote, helping in 2014.
Right.
I just feel like Kissinger is like dad being annoyed the kids crashed his car, right? Because he built all this up, got it all working for America, and then retards like the Biden administration put us in this situation. And he has to just be going, what the fuck, guys? All you had to do was steer straight.
People, like when I hear people, I mean, a ton of people saying, like, so Russia's losing because they really screwed up. Is the idea that they're losing because what Putin really wanted was to take all of Ukraine and he didn't get all of it? Is that what they're basing it on? Saying
no,
like, what?
The random people you're referring to that you talk to and see online and what have you are just repeating propaganda told to them by the corporate media. They're being told that Russia's losing and they're being told that Ukraine's winning. And so they just repeat it. That's it. Just like they're like, like remember when we invaded Iraq and there was that guy, Baghdad Bob, he would just come out and say, we're doing great. We're winning. And that's what we're doing. It's called propaganda.
Do you ever watch Johnny Harris, the ex-Mormon, bright-eyed?
Yes.
I like it when Johnny Harris slowly discovers things, but he did one on Ukraine. He was like, Russia says because NATO expanded. No, and like it sounds like it's exactly why it happened because they didn't want NATO to expand.
I don't know who Johnny Harris is.
Oh, you got to treat yourself.
Oh, is he some random guy on somewhere? Or is he?
Imagine if Jackson Hinkle was a really innocent ex-Mormon of a young with blonde hair.
So you're talking about some preacher who's prominent?
He's not
New York Times video essayist.
Oh, that's who this guy is?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. That's how it's going to end.
He's like, oh, that guy?
Okay, jokes are funny.
Is there anything left in 3 minutes?
No, probably not.
No. Okay. It sounded like he was getting ready to end his segment anyway, so. Let's see here. What were we doing here? Let's see here. We went from that.
Oh, wait. Before we move on too far away here, I'm going to post something in the chat here.
Absolutely.
This is an MSM article referencing the New York Times. And this is something that they put out the 26th of May, I believe, right?
So this is MSN. It doesn't have a date. From the New York Times. Charles
Yeah, okay.
Sanders.
I have the New York Times itself pulled up as well, but of course you have to like subscribe to whatever.
Yeah, right. You're not going to be able to read it.
But
exactly.
it does say that it was posted from the New York Times. It's that same article that they're referencing. Just so you know that this article does in fact exist. This was posted 5 days ago on the 26th.
Newly disclosed documents have shed a crack of light on the secret executive branch plans to apocalyptic scenarios like the aftermath of the nuclear attack, when the president may activate wartime powers for national security emergencies. Until now, public knowledge is what the government put into those classified directives, which invoke emergencies, wartime powers granted by Congress and otherwise claimed by presidents, has been limited in declassified descriptions of those developed in an early Cold War, in an era when they included steps like imposing martial law, rounding up people deemed dangerous, and censoring news from abroad. It has not been clear that this is modern directives, known as the Presidential Emergency Action Documents, because under administrations of both parties, none have been made public or shown to Congress. But the newly disclosed documents, which relate to the George W. Bush administration's efforts to revise the draft orders after the attacks of September 11. Several of the files provided by the New York Times by the Brennan Center of Justice show that the Bush-era efforts partly focused on a law that permits the president to take over or shut down communication networks in wartime. That suggests that government may have developed or revised such an order in light of the explosion growth in the 1990s in the consumer internet. Underscoring how little lawmakers and the public can infer, another file from the summer of 2008 mentioned that Justice Department lawyers are revising the unidentified draft order in the light of the recent Supreme Court opinion. The memo does not specify the rule or the ruling, but the court has just issued landmark decisions that on topics that could relate to government actions in the emergency. One about gun rights in the United States, and another about rights of Guantanamo detainees to court hearings. The bottom line is that these documents leave no doubt that post-9/11 emergency actions documents have direct and significant implications on Americans, on American civil liberties. And yet there's no oversight by Congress, and that's unacceptable, says Elizabeth Goitein of the Brennan Center. Even though it is unclear how the directives have evolved since the later stages of the Cold War, Ms. Goitein said that they are likely expanded to include other scenarios beyond devastating nuclear attack. The documents show the later versions extended from one category to 7. Although their topic remains secret, the fall of the jurisdiction is of agencies with different areas of focus.
By the way, the Brennan, what did it say, Brennan? What was that again? That has...
The Brennan Center of Justice...
That has direct ties to the Justice Department. There's a lot of people that have direct ties to that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's the Brennan Center of Justice in New York. It's going to have ties.
The name? Like, it's named after the Brennan family.
I mean, just so people are aware, just so people know, just to clarify that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. The newly disclosed documents show that there are 48 of the directives when Bush administration took office. By 2008, the number had grown to 56. Vice President Dick Cheney's office is involved in reviewing and clearing the orders. The documents do not indicate any consultation with Congress. Several Bush administration officials whose names were mentioned in the documents, speaking in background to discuss matters that remain classified, portrayed the effort of bureaucratic good housekeeping. It seemed prudent as the government reorientated to focus on national security after the September 11th attacks, they said. The Brennan Center of Justice, with the gathered materials about the presidential emergency action documents obtained in the files under the Freedom of Information Act from the Bush Presidential Library, the disclosures constituted about 500 pages, while about 6,000 more pages were withheld as classified. The disclosures come. Well, you said great?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just great.
Right? Just awesome. Yeah. The disclosures come from the House passed bill in December that would impose significant curbs on executive power after the Trump years, including a provision that would require disclosure of the emergency action documents to congressional overseers. The bill, called the Protecting Our Democracy Act, is not expected to pass the Senate, where Republicans can block it with the filibuster, but advocates for imposing some new limits on presidential emergency powers, the same bipartisan support, are discussing trying later this year to attach a portion to an annual Defense Authorization Act that is considered must-pass legislation. See, they do that shit all the time. And because they can't get something to pass, they say, well, let's add it to something else that will pass or must pass, and then watch everybody squirm and squeal when they actually, find out that's what was actually in the freaking act. The United States is pathetic.
But you can see where this is going, right? Like, no one has challenged this yet until, I mean, you're talking about this here, but like no one's like really officially challenged these quote unquote presidential powers, even though the president doesn't actually have these powers. But this is just something that, like, oh my God, we have to enact this. Bush said we have to enact it, because of 9/11 attacks. Oh my God, terrorisms, right? So, and then of course you have all the talk about, cyber attacks and things and so forth. We had the cyber attack from alleged Russia on the pipeline last year, the East Coast pipeline. So you can kind of see perhaps where things are going. Again, they talk about nuclear. So clearly, and this was put out on the 26th, 5 days ago. And of course, World Economic Forum is happening. Clearly, and again, of course, this is New York Times. This is a mouthpiece of these people. Clearly, you can kind of see where they want the ball to go, where they're looking at going. And the Washington Post had something similar to this as well. And of course, other people have repeated the same thing, referencing the New York Times and Washington Post. And so, and of course, like the Brennan Institute of Justice, of course, has their own little thing on this as well that they put out here recently. They updated it. It was originally in 2020, and then they updated something on their website for just several days ago. So you can kind of see where they're wanting to push this, where it's like, oh, maybe we have some more Russian terrorismings, or maybe maybe Russia decides to oh no, we're going to taxes the United States, and then maybe turn off your power, or turn off the oil or whatever, because oh, Russian oil, right? Or whatever, attack the internet, attack whatever, and then oh, the president has these emergency powers. So just getting you prepped for the idea of the president has these powers, he has these sorts of things here, they exist, we want him to have them, and we might be able to enact these sorts of things. And of course, guess what else is coming up this year is the midterms. And then of course we see good old pox from monkeys flying around. So I mean, you can kind of see
the gay pox.
The gay pox, yes.
Yeah. So you can kind of see where this is going. You can kind of see where they want you. They're prepping you for okay, this is again, right? Again, what was Koolfrogg, right? With all the lockdown bullshit, right? It's prepping you. It's the blueprint for how we're going to do this more and more often. And of course, as we get into the other different videos and so forth that I have pulled up as well, you'll see about different things of that nature as well. But just as it pertains to, let's say, for example, a possible Russian cyber attack, oh my God. Not only would that go after U.S. infrastructure, which is what these globalists want, but it would also implicate Russia, which then you get Russia involved with a war. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, the president has emergency powers. Everything's going to be fine. By the way, this is what the damn dumbass letter Q people were talking about for a long time. And they were also talking about FEMA as well. And they were like, oh yeah, we need to have that. I mean, that's how dumbass those people were, by the way. They're like waiting for the president to enact dictatorial powers and be like a dictator for 6 months. And like have full-blown military, martial law, FEMA camps and shit. Like, it's like, what the hell are these people? It's like, oh, we stand for like America. We say, it's like, go to hell. Like, I can't like, it's just the level of stupid is just beyond compare with these people. But of course, The Atlantic had an article about this back in 2020, where they were talking about the presidential powers that Trump could use. Oh my God, and it's the same thing. And then, of course, now here you have it being repeated now for this. Even as we see the war in Ukraine coming to a slowing, steady close, you see this come out. And so it's like starting to prep you for the possible idea of some, emergency powers having to be enacted. And of course, the World Economic Forum and at the WHO thing, right? With the WHO treaty with, oh my God, the next pandemic that's going to come around. Oh, we need to have this. And then, of course, you're going to play a clip here from a woman from New Zealand who's talking about that the WHO needs to have emergency powers gifted to it by all the nation states of the world because they need to be able to come in with their people and do whatever the hell they need to do without government interference from any local state or any sort of sovereign government of a country. Like, they need to just step aside and let the WHO do whatever the hell they want. And of course, you have like full-blown hour-long talks at the World Economic Forum where they're talking about the next, global disaster and pandemics and all the rest. So,
we'll get to you,
ironically, even Mr. Gates is against vaccine passports. Apparently, someone on his security team clued him in that was an unpopular position with the public.
Interesting.
Sorry, I just threw that tangent out there. Please continue.
No, that's awesome. So then it continues. It says Senator Markey, Democrat of Massachusetts, who drafted a provision as standalone legislation in 2020, said Congress has an opportunity to bring some accountability to the emergency planning. Quote, "It's our duty as lawmakers to demand that the executive branch turn over documents to Congress as representatives of the American people, can evaluate the constitutionality of the future president's attempt to exploit the emergency to assume extraordinary powers." Markey proposed this bill after Donald Trump claimed that he wielded total authority in the early days of the Koolfrogg pandemic and declared a national emergency.
There's your Koolfrogg, ladies and gentlemen. There's your pandemic. There's your pandemic that we have to have our germ games and, all these different things. And we need to work together with Pfizer and the WHO, and we need to really get all the governments of the world on board with having these people come in and really take a look at what's going on with these new outbreaks of things, of these viruses just pop out of the jungles and just attack people in the street. Anyway.
So then just to continue the article here real quick, it says more is public about the 1950s and 60s versions of the draft emergency action orders because some of the has been mentioned or described in memos that has since been declassified. For example, they included directives imposing versions of martial law, censoring information, crossing the border, and suspending court hearings for detained people. It is unclear whether the current set includes similar actions. Another early emergency action order from the 50s was readied to create military zones prohibiting certain categories of people. The directive echoed how the government barred Japanese and Japanese Americans from large swaths of the West Coast during World War II, leading to their internment. In 1967, the Justice Department recommended dropping that one. A memo declassified in 2019 shows.
So there you go, folks. You also have your lovely camps. But hey, that was a made-up conspiracy by Mr. Emmerich Jones.
It's everything that comes out that man's mouth is a conspiracy. What are you talking about?
That's only because he's 6 months early.
Right. Quote, the broad-scale criticism of the Japanese relocation program is well-known and well-founded. It is open to serious question whether any similar program should be authorized which would permit the removal or detention of American citizens as a group based solely on their race, religion, or national origin. Sounds a little racist to me, but, you know, I think that's what we're pretty much about, is pushing the racism. Other orders from the era included declaration of the state of war existed, a directive to arrange the reconvening Congress to secure site, and the creation of agency empowered to impose sweeping controls over the economy. That agency, reporting to the president, would enact controls like I can't even say it. Private property and allocating materials, imposing wages, price and rent controls, rationing, and settling labor disputes. For several years, the Obama-era Justice Department mentioned in budget documents submitted to Congress that its Office of Legal Counsel in 2012 had begun to review the legality.
That word is requisitioning. Sorry, requiring.
And I just couldn't get it out. It's requisitioning.
Just so people know.
I tried my hardest to get it out and I couldn't.
Right, but just in case somebody might be listening, it's requisitioning private property and allocating materials, imposing wage prices, right controls. And of course, we saw the CDC come out, right? Oh, we can control the rent. We can tell landlords what the hell to do with their rent when it comes to people underneath of COOF, because, oh my God, right? So, I mean, you're starting to see all these things, right? In fact, we have seen them basically be enacted, but, now you're starting to see it from more of an official, full-blown national emergency. Get used to it. Get prepared for it, people. It exists. It's there. Just, basically what they're going over here. Of course, the New York Times, again, this is the New York Times, like they give a shit about the United States going authoritarian, but, what the hell.
I mean, they only care to the degree that their heads are on the chopping block, which I think they're coming to terms with.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the last paragraph pretty much hits on Obama and Trump administrations and their own budget requests that, pretty much failed. Dumb. So, what did we have going on? So then...
Oh, go to the one that I posted with the woman now.
The one with the woman.
It was a Rumble clip. The one with
Bill
the woman.
Gates.
Like
there you are.
seconds.
I'm just kidding. The woman on Rumble. I'm going to kind of slide this down a little bit so I remember which ones I did and didn't do. Let's go there.
I think it's like maybe 30 seconds of this clip of this woman. She's at the World Economic Forum. Her name is Helen
Elizabeth Clark.
Yes. She's a New Zealand politician, served as the 37th Prime Minister of New Zealand from 1999 to 2008, was the administrator of the United Nations Development Program from 2009 to 2017. She was New Zealand's 5th longest-serving Prime Minister and 2nd woman to hold that office, so whatever. But that's the whole point. She worked with the UN, and now, of course, she's at Davos with the World Economic Forum. and she served as the prime minister. So if you'd make that full screen there.
No, it's getting there. I was trying to read this here. It says, this is Klaus Schwab is the founder of the World Economic Forum and the author of Koof, The Great Reset. Noah Harari is the lead advisor to Klaus. Yuval Noah Harari is praised by Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Barack Obama, and the New York Times, Stanford, Harvard, and TED, etc. So
like TED Talks and things like that. So anyways.
So it's...
We have to believe that it's possible to stop a localized outbreak becoming a raging global pandemic. And that means better surveillance, more transparency, frankly, by all member states. If they think something's happened, it's got to be reported. And the WHO needs the power to be on the site with whatever teams need to be deployed. It needs to be able to publish the information it has rather than beg countries for permission to do it. It's got to be able to take a precautionary approach in running up a flag. And it's got
No, we don't need weird bureaucracies running the world. Fuck the hell off, lady.
Emergency committee. These are basic things that need to be dealt with in a review of the international health regulations. Otherwise, we will lose weeks again next time something happens.
Next time.
The next time something happens, we'll lose weeks again. And so, I mean...
I'm sorry freedom's inconvenient for you authoritarians, but get the fuck out. Just go die somewhere, Skeletor. No one cares.
F you, Skeletor!
It's someone calling my name. It's just an inconvenient timing. My husband.
Look, Nancy, I know your husband crashed the car because he got drunk off your alcohol breath. Why don't you go deal with that for a while?
We had too much of we shared it's a small room together. The air is just. It just made him. It was aerating off of me. Yes. It's really interesting. I got really drunk, and he was just there. Does that sound good for the police report?
So, I was just kind of underneath this particular clip that you made me play here from Helen Elizabeth Clark. I was just kind of scrolled down underneath just to see if there's...
Skeletor is talking.
Fuck you, Nancy. I was just kind of skimmed down here real quick, and it says... General Flynn's Reawaken America tour gains momentum. Looks like there's still tickets available for the Virginia Beach July 8th, July 9th event, as well as the Rochester, New York event. Tickets requests are flying in, so from August 12th and 13th, but it looks like April, June, July, August, September, November, December, January, February, March, April, and May, all the way through next May. Looks like there's totally sold out on these tickets for Reawaken America tour. I'm interested in what the heck that is supposed to be.
Oh my god, those meetings, holy freak. I mean, there's a couple of wacky people that come up there, but most of them are good,
Well, it's General Flynn, so I mean, you're like, he's kind of a whack.
He's a little all over the place.
Kinda. If you've listened to some of the stuff that comes out of his mouth, some of it's kind of like, what the heck did you just say? I mean, so it says that it looks like Eric Trump, Kim Clement's daughter, Donna Clement Pertusky, Kash Patel, Dr. Judy, Dr. Zelenko, Mel K, Dr. Simon Gold, Sean Vogt, I don't even know how this Vogt, Dr. Dave Martin, Mel K, Dr. Jane Ruby, Charlie Kirk, Roger Stone, Judy Mikovits, Peter McCullough, Dr. Stella Emanuel, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, Lance Walnu, comedian Jim Brower, and Mike Lindell join the tour. So, I mean, quite a few people that actually have something to say, and they're trying to just reawaken America. There's another list of people. Holy crap.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it seems like it could be a big deal. It looks like
thousands of people every week.
Right, looks like it could be the opposite of, World Economic Forum stuff or whatever, and trying to wake people up to the truth. Oh, I didn't say that. No.
Anything.
Witness the power of the dark side. Just in time.
Hey, right,
Oh, this is
exactly.
this is 33 minutes long.
Well, no,
I think there was a timestamp.
I was gonna say, was there a timestamp on this one? What
I
was
put up a timestamp on each one.
Okay, so I gotta figure out which one this actually is, and
It's 26 minutes and 4 seconds to 27.
26:34.
Yeah, and play it to 27 and 5 seconds.
Wow. Is this the one where he...
Oh yeah, this is the part where they edited a clip of him. This is another thing, people. I should bring this up after we... well, actually, before we play this, let me bring up that clip, because I totally forgot about that. I should mention it.
So this clip that AmericaShirts is going to bring up right now, you bring that up. This clip, he brought it up. He said something to me last night, and I said, no, wait a minute. Before we actually share that particular clip, did you listen to the clip that was actually tied to it, that particular clip in Twitter? And when you actually look at that, it actually, there's a sentence that they remove for whatever reason. And
to make people look like fools.
Right. And it's just ridiculous that they did it the way they did. Because you're right. Exactly like you said. It's just to make people look like fools. No, I see that. So I'm going to...
And lots of people were sharing that and posting that, and then all of a sudden they'd go into the chat rooms, and they'd go into these other places, and you'd have like all these different people in all these different places bombarding people, telling them, "Oh, you're a liar. You're the establishment. Look, this isn't true. Nothing that you say is true. Everything's false. Everything's false." It's like they get like lists of people like just bombarding these.
Some asshole leftist went and watched the World Economic Forum. Went and
this is like a coordinated, like sort of cyber disinformation attack.
Edited this shit, and you can see where it's edited once we actually go through this and then go through the actual footage.
And they would never admit something like this publicly, I don't think.
No.
I mean, like, but they already have said enough in public. We know what they're going towards, but we didn't need this, as you're going to see here, and you
not at all.
Seen it as well. We have enough in their white papers. We have enough in their own documents. We have enough of all the different things that they've already said. We don't need this. This is complete, total disinformation op against people who are trying to spread the truth and make people that are trying to spread the truth look like fools and idiots. And then, we can't trust them. Can't trust, if you can't trust the mainstream, well, then you might as well not trust anybody at all. Just go off and spin in circles at a cave somewhere. I don't know what the hell. I mean, just don't even do anything at all. Like, that's what this is for. It's to discourage people, to distract.
So let's listen to the edited version again, and then we'll finish this. It's a minute, so it's like 30 seconds is edited, and then they show the next 30 seconds where it's not.
Right. And this is the same clip that you're about to watch in a more fuller. It's the same setup. Like, it's the same little meeting there with Klaus Schwab and then the CEO of Pfizer. And they're both sitting there, and they have their own. They're having like a little talk that they're having at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. And this is a clip from that 35-minute sit down with those two on that stage there.
Okay, listen closely, because he's going to say something, and then he's going to the unedited is going to totally change the way it sounds.
It's not sharing.
Son of a bitch. Sitting there listening to this crap myself over and over.
Was by 2023 we will reduce the number of people in the world by 50%. I think that it's really a fulfillment of a dream that we had together with my leadership team when we started in 19. The first week we met in January of 19 in California and to set up the goals for the next 5 years. And one of them
Watch his mouth.
was by 2023, we will reduce
Watch it closely.
the number of people in the world by 50%.
You see that
I think
shift?
Today, this dream is becoming reality.
Right. That was the edit. And it's
That was the
totally not true. What he just said was edited so... it angered me when I first heard it. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And then when I actually seen that it was actually edited, it angered me even more. Stop fucking with shit.
Because they want to make people who talk about these people publicly talking about depopulation look like fools and look like frauds. And then that way, the people who are trying to get the truth out might fall for something like this. And then, oh, well, you know.
Right,
We can't believe that.
Which
And
we
then
almost did,
confuse
because if
everybody.
I wouldn't have had originally seen that that was actually edited, and you brought it up last night that we should do this today, and we didn't figure this out that it was edited, we would have slapped that up there and thrown just the edited version up, and we all would have been, see, look what they just said, and we would have both sounded like a freaking moron.
It's really a fulfillment of a dream that we had together with my leadership team when we started in 19. The first week we met in January of 19 in California and to set up the goals for the next 5 years. And one of them was by 2023, we will reduce the number of people in the world that cannot afford our medicines by 50%. I think today...
The people that can't afford our medicines by 50%.
And of course, this goes along with everything they want as well, because, well, of course, they're going to reduce the number of people that are going to do that because they're having the governments to buy up all of their jabs, and then the governments pay for it. But of course, it's through your tax dollars, obviously. But they're having all the governments pay for it. So, it's free. It's free. Everybody gets one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 8,000. Like, just, take them all up your ass. Like, I mean, that's what they want. So this goes along with their agenda. We didn't need this edited, but of course it's convenient to do that because, well, hey, it's all right there and they can just do that. And in this same clip, these people in that 35-minute sit down that they have on the stage, they actually talk about and they joke about how, there's these conspiracy sites that, we get arrested by the FBI and whatever. And, it's so funny. Like, the conspiracy people, they're so funny. It's so funny. And they just sit around and they just talk and for 5 minutes about how, there's this stupid website that this bastard here that you're looking at now, this freaky looking, clown looking, twisted faced bastard here, apparently went on the internet and found some kooky website saying that he was taken away by the FBI, he's so funny, there's conspiracy people, it's just everywhere, just disinformation, it's everywhere. And so and so they're literally talking about disinformation as whoever the hell this is, and I guarantee this is opposition to what the people are trying to get out of the truth here. This same very clip, they talk about, it's disinformation people, and then there's a clip from the very same sit down where they're putting out literal disinformation, and I guarantee you it's from these same people.
I mean, this is the fascist that says he wants chipped pills to enforce compliance. Right?
Yes.
So, that's the part you should focus on. The weird, super fascist shit he said, not made up clips.
Oh, wait, did you play that? I thought you did. Did you play this thing?
There's 5 seconds left to this. It's quick.
Reality.
Listen to the clap. Because
Yes,
everybody's
listen.
yeah. You're not an asshole. We love you. Piece of shit.
But did you guys play that one where he talks about the pill?
I don't think so.
Bring that up. Because I forgot to throw that in there.
That's fine. We can. Oh.
Do.
So let's see here. Let's listen to Klaus here real fast while you look that up.
Oh no, where the hell did they go?
So it's this is from 2635. So the first 5 seconds aren't part of what we wanted, but it's okay. We want to hear it all. So from 2634 to 2705.
Okay, here it is. Let me do. Because, YouTube just keeps taking this shit off. Like, I mean, just earlier I found it really easily on YouTube, and now I can't even find it in this damn search engine. There it is on the Rumble.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it one more time because I missed half of it.
Missed half of what? Are you sharing something again and it's not coming up?
No, it's there.
It is, because it's just still...
I just see a paused video.
Yeah, from the video that we just played.
What the hell? Sit there and boomer my way through this shit.
I know. I was like, "What the hell is he doing?" Like, I don't hear anything.
No, I swear, I
I can
reshared
hear
the
it faintly in
screen.
the background through his microphone. But
Well, you might as well just play the Rumble one then. Now that we're talking about the Pfizer thing, whatever, the ingestible pill that he was talking about in the World Economic Forum.
Well, okay,
It's very interesting. It's 28 seconds.
No, you're fine. Ingestible pill.
Imagine the compliance.
It is basically biological chip that it is in the tablet, and once you take the tablet and dissolves into your stomach, sends a signal that you took the tablet. So imagine the applications of that, compliance. The insurance companies to know that the medicines that patients should take, they do take them. It is fascinating what happens in this field.
What the
Imagine
fuck?
the compliance.
yeah, that clip isn't edited. He actually said that one.
Yeah.
What the?
Yeah.
I gotta hear that again.
Basically biological chip that it is in the tablet.
A biological chip that's in the tablet.
And dissolves into your stomach, sends a signal that you took the tablet.
So, I mean, throw up into a cup and throw the tablet into the cup, and then watch it dissolve, and then watch it send a thing saying that you actually took it.
So
yeah, you could probably put it in a glass of vinegar.
The insurance companies to know that the medicines that patients should take, they do take them. It is fascinating what happens in this field. It is
fascinating what happens in this field. Sure it is. It's fascinating for everybody to actually know what's actually happening. But you're not telling everybody what's actually happening. You're just keeping it to yourselves. Fuckers.
Imagine the compliance that we could put out. But hey, he loves you. He gives you jabs. He loves you.
Yes.
The jabby stabby.
Yes. He wants to stab you with a pokey thing. He loves you.
The jabby stabby.
Ah.
Okay, so 26. Oh, it says 36. I gotta go back a few seconds.
2634.
Right, and it's at 26:30. We're gonna listen to 4 seconds of Klaus. That's not part of what we're trying to get at.
Certain about what's happening in this respect?
Yes. I think we will see a lot of advancements with mRNA. And the good thing, after the success of COVID, it is that right now we have a substantial way.
Well, we have to do it because they're talking about it. Susan, we're not doctors. We're not trying to tell people what to do, when to do it, how to do it. People should actually see their doctors and do what's best for them. Always.
But you know what? Even better.
Susan, please don't ban us for playing a video of your boss. That would be very
literally.
great.
Right.
Wave of companies, biotechs and big pharmas that are working on mRNA. A lot. And they are working on multiple applications of mRNA. So I think the first things that I'm hopeful to see it is other vaccines other than COVID. A flu vaccine with mRNA, a single vaccine with mRNA, other vaccines with mRNA.
And that's the end. So
that way we can actually go, we can inject your children with this stuff, this particular version of stuff or whatever, and we're going to stick it in every different thing that we possibly can that we already give our children, so that way we can actually change the way their DNA actually affect. I just fuck you guys.
So again, folks, we already have jabbies and stabbies for all these other things. Now he's like, hey, let's put this shit in literally everything now. And then everything you get, we're just gonna like mandate get it, and you just
right. And you're gonna sit there and tell me that I have to actually give my child a particular dose of whatever to help with something that hasn't been around for hundreds of years, because you're like, we know that if you take it, it actually helps. Well, okay, but now you're gonna go and you're gonna sit there and strain it with this crap, and you're gonna tell me that I still have to give it to him.
Again, this
off.
is what, and let me pull this up. This is what Klaus Schwab calls the Fourth Industrial Revolution. He says in this clip with Charlie Rose, he says the Fourth Industrial Revolution will change you if you take the gene editing. Take the gene editing. And of course, this is to quote unquote make you genetically immune from diseases and so forth. That is to say what they've been talking about at the World Economic Forum, how they wish to have this technology go. And of course, they stick it in everything. So, yeah. Which, of course, we know kind of what these things really
Depopulation.
do. At least I hope we do.
It's all about depopulation.
I mean, I wish old men would just go retire somewhere. They're incompetent failures who have done nothing for the last 50 years that has been successful. Their entire adult lives, they have been utter and complete failures. Go retire, Grandpa. Stop ranting and ruining the world for the rest of us. 50 years of failure. They're not going to suddenly fix it now.
Shirts, were you going to share something?
Yes, here, let me pull this up.
No, I was making sure that I heard you correct. So while he's actually figuring that out, everyone should actually go and check out AmericaShirtsAreFirst.com. I'm sure he's probably still working on it. Just bookmark it. And keep in mind that you can eventually use promo code Koolfrogg and get 15% off anything in the store. You should go down below if you're interested in helping me, and hit up the buymeacoffee.com/Koolfrogg. I did throw a PayPal link down in there as well, just in case you're interested in going that route. Otherwise, Linktree /Koolfrogg, you can actually follow me almost anywhere. When I say almost anywhere, I mean almost anywhere. If there's somewhere that you can't find me and you actually have a tendency to go there, tell me. I'll go join it, and I'll create content over there if I have to. If you're interested in talking to somebody like Mike, subscribe to this channel and let us know that you subscribed. We'll catch you a Discord link, and you can hold conversations with on a regular basis. Mike is one of the best guys to talk to, I'll tell you that right now. So full of information, and it's great. Yes, you can talk to Shirts as well.
Well, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still waiting on this.
I know, because freaking YouTube again. I have to shapeshift everything every 5 minutes with this stupid shit.
We'll take Bill Gates down for the moment. Wait. I'm really interested in what's going to happen with the show.
Oh, here we go. God.
Susan's boss is going to allow me to keep this.
Here, I'll just post it like I did the others.
Why? Why can't you share it?
There you go. 30 seconds.
It says 32. Come on now.
Well, you know.
Okay, it's...
Just think of the rounding.
Klaus. Klaus. He looks a little young here. This is from 2015.
The difference of this fourth industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing. It changes you. If you take genetic editing, just as an example, it's you who are changed. And of course, this has a big impact on your identity.
And offers certain kinds of possibilities that have to be careful about. You know, when you began to do that kind of gene editing, some people worry that you are changing what it means to be human.
And they have a whole balloon conversation that you can find on YouTube. It's 15 minutes long or more-ish. And they talk about all of this stuff in detail. But that right there is relevant to what we were discussing. And of course, they talk about this stuff openly. You know what I mean? Like, they talk about all of this openly. They say everything like this opening. You just heard it out of the horse's ass right there. Right there it is.
Total failures their entire adult lives. Like, does anyone think the last 50 years have been good? Have they succeeded anywhere?
Well, being that I'm 45 years old, I say no. I think
they don't want to. They want
I think the last thing I remember as being positive in politics in the United States was watching MTV and watching songs with Ronald Reagan. It was just funny. I'm serious. It was funny. It was so hilarious because like everybody picked on him or whatever, and everybody had things going on or whatever because and it was just like ever since then it's just like everything's just gone to shit. Other than for a few years there was a guy in there that we kind of have the tendency to like, but we're told that we can't like him. So
well, the primary focus.
Oh man, did you see that? He just coughed in his hand. Ugh.
COVID spreader.
Well, the primary focus of the Melinda Gates Foundation is to improve health equity. That's what Melinda and I picked back in the year 2000, where we first got going. And partnerships with a company like Pfizer have been key to the progress we've made. And for example, Gavi got started, actually announced here at Davos. One of the most important vaccines, the one that saved the most lives of all, is the pneumococcus vaccine. And Pfizer was the innovator there with their Prevnar
Hey, Bill,
product.
why aren't
And
you
they-
allowed in many African countries or the Indian subcontinent? Just curious.
How many countries is it, Bill?
I mean,
How many of them
really
would
know
arrest and
how
then execute
many
you?
At this point, I sort of kind of lost count of the number of countries.
Hey,
But
Bill, who's banned in more places? You or George Soros? Is that your competition? You gotta like take the high score from him.
well, yes, it's actually a bit of a competition we have. It's sort of private, but we do have a bit of a rivalry going on there.
we've been providing that at low cost so that it can get out to all the children of the world. Today's announcement is
I absolutely love all of the children of the world.
All of them.
I'm like Jesus in that song, all the little children of the world, they all just come to me for all of their health and reproductive services, and I love all of the little children, my dad was the head of Planned Parenthood, and that was very controversial at the time, but I think people have adapted to that now, where they can really see through and actually really enjoy the prospect of abortions on demand and things. But I love all the little children of the world.
Anally.
I mean, if we're talking, I've addressed this. We've gone over this many times before on PBS with that.
No, we know better. Stop it.
I mean, if we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein, well, he's dead. So,
oh, your best friend, huh?
I mean, I guess you just got to be careful, but. Anyway,
I mean, there's even a section in your Wikipedia that talks about your relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean,
and Trump wanted to do an investigation into my vaccines, and some guy named Robert Kennedy Jr., whoever the hell that is, nobody knows who that is. I mean, let's just be honest. But I told him no, that would be a bad thing. No, don't do that. That would be bad. That would be bad. So he didn't go that direction, which I was very appreciative of.
Oh, okay.
Strong
Back to my
additional
speech
commitment
here,
by Pfizer to take their incredible capabilities and make sure that they get out to everyone in the world. For all the drugs they do create, the commitment to have the COGS-based pricing, that will improve accessibility. Pfizer's also committing to a partnership with the foundation to create new products. Two of those
again,
will be,
the Bill and
Rupees
Melinda Gates
Streptococcus
Foundation,
vaccine,
or excuse me, it's the Institute for Population Control, as it is formerly known as amongst our high elite circles. And anyways, back to my wonderful clip here. I love looking at my face when I smile.
Which in future events we can brief you on how that will save hundreds of thousands of lives, and likewise an RSV vaccine. These are vaccines you give to the mother, maternal vaccines, and so doing the trials exactly right requires the deep expertise that Pfizer has. So we're super
like where they
pleased to
didn't
work
count
together with
pregnancy
them.
terminations for the COVID vaccine. It's really hard to doctor data like that without practice.
What?
What are you talking about? Who is this that just jumped in here?
Bill Gates loves the little children. Shut up. God. Stand with Ukraine, damn it.
I said stand. Get off of your knees.
Wear the gold and blue proudly on your forehead.
My favorite is it's now part of the gay flag, despite the fact that you probably shouldn't be gay in Ukraine.
I know. It's like the damn stupidest shit ever. What the hell? They put a goddamn country's flag on the freaking LGBT. Like, what the hell? I mean, Canada wants to try to make, like, the French Canadians out to be some sort of minority. Are they going to add that to the goddamn flag now? How the hell are they going to put the French Quebec flag into that goddamn thing? It's like half the flag is now, like, eaten up by this freaking, like, arrow-headed pile of shit going sideways. Like,
Well, it's because gay people are just realizing they're going to get treated the same way they help treat everyone else, and they were too stupid to like do basic logic. Just like women discovered after feminism, they were thrown under the bus too.
like this.
I mean, what?
Allegedly.
Oh my lord. I'm not even.
And of course, every
Koolfrogg's like, how do I dig this one out?
No, seriously. I was like, all right, let's do this real quick. And I went and I Googled which countries is Bill Gates banned from. And third thing down, Reuters has a fact check list of claims that Bill Gates includes falsities. And it is basically saying, oh, no, most of this didn't happen. These are all false claims. When it comes to the India one, it basically says that not all of them died from what he had given them.
Wait, so like
according to the order,
so they don't even dispute he was banned. Just he didn't poison that many.
Right, he just didn't poison them all. So according to the article, investigators found that 5 of the deaths were due to reasons unrelated to the certain jab, with a snake bite, 2 suicides, and 1 malaria complications. 2 other girls died from high fever and cerebral hemorrhage, both unlikely to be linked to this particular jab.
You know what? Give me a Bill Gates jab and just kill me right now.
That's what I'm saying. Let's just do it.
God.
Fuck it. We'll all just stand in line and we'll all take the jab all at once, and then
Oh my God.
see which complication we each get.
I mean, it's bad when the fact checkers are going, well, he didn't kill that many.
Right, he didn't kill all 23,000. There were 7 of them. 7 of them that didn't have,
Yeah.
And only 1,200 of them only suffered some side effects. So I mean, not all 23,000. He did not kill that whole city.
Ukraine aren't making bioweapons. They're just researching engineered viruses that could be weaponized. Gosh.
They're bio research facilities. Bioweapons research facilities.
My favorite is still the question was, does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons? To which the lady just blanches and goes, they have biological research facilities. Head nod. And you're like, the senator for a moment just looks stunned. Like, wait, what did she say? What are you admitting to?
I have an entire video dedicated to this particular topic on my Rumble channel. Go check that out.
So, of all the things that are in there, this one's hilarious. This is John Hopkins testing on Guatemalans. The post says that Gates funded John Hopkins University experiments that infected hundreds of Guatemalans with STDs for vaccine and drug testing. And this is reminiscent of the infamous Tuskegee syphilis study. The United States apologized in 2010 for the experiment conducted in the 1940s in Guatemala, in which the U.S. government researchers deliberately infected them with syphilis. He was not alive yet, so he did not do so. I mean, that's awesome. There you go. I'm glad that they clarified that for me, that he was just not alive yet on this experiment in the 1940s. So, I mean, they still did it. Whether he funded it or not, stop it.
Fact checker bastards, go
F this fact checker.
So damn stupid. Nobody is claiming that Bill Gates did anything in the 1940s.
That's what it's like. Who's stupid enough to do that? Right. Who's stupid enough to fucking do that?
It's their disinformation bullshit.
Idiots.
Like, they don't know what they're talking about. Just like the video we played earlier, right? Like, they just create fake bullshit. And then they sit there and they go, oh, see, look, somebody picked it up over there. And then maybe one mainstream person might have picked it up. And, it was bad. They're like, oh, see, they're all fake. They're all freaky. They're all weird. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. Like, you shouldn't trust them. You know how that works.
You guys, I swear. You guys are trying to do whatever you can to get this episode to happen. you're like, we're done with it. We don't want to do this anymore.
I'd like to ask Bill Gates, since you cover this in your book, how do we come up with a coordinated effort? What is the path to creating some sort of global response so that we can help the weakest link get strong?
Look at these. They're sitting straight up and down. This guy's sitting straight. Look at how lounged out Bill Gates looks. Feet out in front of him. He's just relaxing. He's like, eh.
And this is the same sit down that woman sat there.
Right.
And
This woman here that we listened to
needs to have full authority over sovereign nations and go through. And of course, again, right, the WHO treaty that they went through, and they went through with the amendments that the Biden administration wanted to put through in it this past Wednesday in Geneva, Switzerland. And then, of course, they're sitting in Davos. And then, of course, 2-3 weeks prior to that, the UN and the World Economic Forum officially sort of joined hands with things. So there is that as well. So anyways, but this is that same sit down with that woman talking about that. So
stronger.
Well, there certainly was time enough for some countries to respond and have, very, very mild pandemics. Ground zero, wherever
like Sweden, who did almost none of this and had one of the best outcomes in Europe.
Job. Will they see an elevation in respiratory symptoms? Will they see an elevation in deaths? Will they run a diagnostic panel? They're not going to be sequencing everything, but when you get an elevation, or you get your normal diagnostic panel showing something unusual, then you've got to start sequencing. And, so there could be more delay in reaction if we have a country with low capacity and we don't have a global team. People always talk about, let's help countries do better. Yeah, we should help countries do better. But a lot of the pandemic risks are in countries when the next several decades will not have that local capacity. So you have to have global capacity.
What country doesn't have gene sequencing these days? Fucking random asshole stoners are genetic splicing weed, and you're trying to tell me a country can't afford one lab with gene sequencing? Are you fucking stoned?
I mean, if you look at him, he looks like he's on something.
I was about to say those eyes.
Are you believing me? Is the selling? Maybe? Yes?
Maybe it's the eugenics. I have no clue.
Pandemics. You have
Too much
to have
gene
global
editing.
capacity that can come in and do those things. So we see that a lot. But here we're lucky. If this had been 10 years ago, some of these vaccine technologies did not.
With his smile, he would have been something if it was 10 years ago. And look at that look on his face. He's like, what is he looking at? He keeps on looking up.
He's thinking of all of the children.
He's trying to think about, I got to access this file in the back of my brain.
Some of these vaccine technologies did not exist. If it comes 10 years from now, we should have far, far better diagnostic technology. That is, be able to scale up every country within a month to diagnose their entire population. We should have much better therapeutics, some of which will be pathogen independent. And then, as we do come up with vaccines, we want vaccines that are infection blocking and long duration, which today, the vaccines have saved millions of lives, but they don't have much in the way of duration, and they're not.
But they don't actually work. They don't block it, and they
wait.
don't
Let him finish. Let the great
duration, and they're not good at infection blocking.
There it is. Okay, now.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks.
Well,
poisoned all the kids for something that doesn't work.
Thanks for finally spitting out the truth, asshole.
Funny how they're all being honest now that this is blowing up in their face. It's like, well, you shouldn't execute me. I meant well, even if this was a total disaster. And it's like, no, you broke the law. This was never a good plan. None of the evidence suggested this works, and you're the guy at the helm. Like, you're going down with the ship there, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is the same bastard who has the who got up with Stephen Colbert and that stupid, cringy, dystopic bullshit thing where they're dancing around to the vaccine song, and then he's there, like in the background, like bobbing his head up and down on another screen with them. I think is that the same one, or is it?
Probably.
It's like, okay, like, everybody, everybody do this. It's great. It's fine. Then he's like, well, it's not very, good,
Yeah, we've all known that for a year now at this point. Like, who didn't know that?
And of course, the FDA has come out and said that the Johnson & Johnson one, this is the FDA speaking, the Johnson & Johnson one causes blood clots.
Every one of them has been pulled in at least one country for being dangerous to children.
Oh, and
but we don't know this. We're not doctors. We're not scientists. We have no clue what the fuck we're talking about.
Oh, but
Susan,
Tedros
do you hear that? We have no clue. We're just
seeing his channel flash.
we're just listening to these people. We're just listening to these people and making comments. There's nothing to do with any of it.
Wait, before we do this, here is this little ditty here by Mr. Tedros.
He's got me on a 2-minute timestamp here. And we get to hear from Tedros. Is this what's going on? Nice.
53 seconds, I think is what.
If we're still live tomorrow, Tedros.
Logical process innovations that need to happen as part of this broader conversation
I hit
about
the wrong one.
preparedness.
Hit the other one.
Well, it's fantastic.
I put it in private chat.
What?
I put this. It's 53-second clip. Put it.
Oh no! Why are you sending this in private? Why can't you share it?
Oh, I don't know. It's just been throwing.
Oh, we're good.
I mean, if you really want me, sure.
No, this is fine. No, you're fine.
Oh, here we go.
I'm gonna bop this back to where it was supposed to be. Oh, you got it?
Because this has to deal with what we were just saying.
No, yeah, you're fine.
So let me.
It's emerging now of its benefits, especially with elderly groups, senior
This
citizens.
was like a couple months ago.
Especially above 65 and above 60. So if it's going to be used, it's better to focus on those groups who have risk of severe disease and death, rather than, as we see, some countries are using to give boosters to kill children. Using to give boosters to kill children. As we see, some countries are using to give boosters to kill children. Some countries are using to give boosters to kill children.
So
what are they doing? they're using what? Boosters?
I mean, you can't get much better than this, right? Like, it's straight from the horse's ass. Like,
I mean, I'm sure it's
leave
a
that there if we'll play it again.
Freudian slip, much like when Bush condemned the invasion of Iraq by an authoritative weirdo.
No same thing, Both.
Yeah. Let me see. Make sure. 46. 24. Okay. 46, 25. Close enough.
Have a society that is fearful.
I think you're a whole
That's
minute
not
off.
good for an economy either. If you have a society where people are falling sick unnecessarily because you haven't put in place the most basic public health measures, that's not good for the economy. So, there were good examples across male and female leaders of these kinds of attributes. The women overall did pretty well. A lot of the men did well as well, but some did very badly.
Some of them did very badly.
Well, I just, to repeat what you just said, Helen, following the data, admitting what you don't know, and showing empathy, just like good leadership skills, full stop.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good leadership
I appreciate
skills.
the sexism from the
we- time
WEF. Have they ever met a woman leader? Like, they seem to not understand women are disproportionately violent in the history of leadership. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised that these diversity hires are just genuinely unaware of history, but, good times.
Well, if you don't read about history, you have the tendency to repeat it. So, they're
Well,
just...
also, their primary qualification is having a cunt, so, I don't expect a lot out of them.
A few questions from
Does anyone believe
before we
the
go to that,
interviewer is up there for a different reason?
the word innovation.
She's not an interviewer.
No.
She's not an interviewer. She's at the beginning of this. She says she's the head of a corporation. She names the corporation. So she's not just like some little interview woman. Like she's the
She
top
has the
of a
distinct look
CEO.
of being a diversity CEO.
Well, yes, but still.
And the fact
Has
that they have
come
her
up
up there only being an interviewer kind of speaks to that, right? Like, she's not the one they're asking opinions of. She's the one they made read a piece of paper. Meta or whatever. They're on the far left.
Did you say meth head? No, I'm just
Meta.
kidding.
Meta.
I don't know. I heard meth head. I don't know. After seeing that woman's teeth,
That's
I'm
the
like,
one to the
just
right
meth
of
head.
her.
Just like it just keeps rolling around in my mind. Anyway,
Bill's face. Okay, bitch, shut the fuck up. Anyway.
I was kind of doing something here. Okay.
We do have time for a few questions from Slido, but before we go to that,
Oh, my lord. Her name is a Punjabi name, and it means highly praised. Just to, meta.
the word innovation has come up a number of times. Bill, you have a chapter in your book dedicated to innovation when it comes to preventing the next pandemic. What do you see as the scientific, technological, process innovations that need to happen as part of this broader conversation about pandemic preparedness?
Well, it's fantastic that in the area of diagnostics, we should be able to use low-cost approaches that still report the data back and ramp those up. There are a new generation of diagnostic machines like Lamira that can be used year in and year out for things like HIV and TB that then, actually it got into Africa mostly because we had a COVID test authorized on it, and now we'll move to use it for those other things. So diagnostic infrastructure backed
wait
up
a minute.
by
Wait a
sequencing.
minute. So did he just say that we're going to use the same test that we tested for COOF on everything else?
Yes, they cooked the books with
So-
PCR tests, and now they're just cooking the books on everything.
So what they're saying is that, we are in fact going to use the same test that we used to cook up the books, as you say, for COOF.
Yes.
Now for literally everything else in the future. So they're going to cook the books and stir the shit with everything else in the future. Okay, just to be clear.
This is what happens when your organization is fundamentally incompetent, right? They have so many diversity hires and people promoted for politics rather than competency that they no longer could, even if they wanted to, make good decisions. Bill Gates is just the front of that very long train of failure. Like, places like the CDC have to be torn down and rebuilt because the entire structure of them, from the top most of the way down, are just incompetents who are promoted for the wrong reasons. And so without removing them from power, possibly forcibly, they will continue to poison people and do crazy things. They are high on their own supply of bullshit.
But just to be clear, again, the same tests that they used for COOF, they're going to use for everything else in the future. And these tests, the guy who made them himself said they should not be used for this kind of thing.
Correct.
Because
they intend to use overcycles of the tests that the guy said should not be used for this kind of diagnosis because they are thoroughly and totally incompetent.
So listen to him say it again.
HIV and TB. Then, actually it got into Africa mostly because we had a COVID test authorized on it.
HIV started in Africa.
To use it for those other things. So diagnostic infrastructure backed
yes, this
up
was
by
a very packed statement.
Sequencing capacity, that's very, very important. Then in the therapeutic realm, how do we get antivirals without waiting 2 years? How do we get antibodies that contract the variants very rapidly and don't require infusion? Can we have drugs that are pathogen independent and stimulate the innate immune system so you can block infection, and those could be used early on? And then finally, the profile for the vaccines, duration and infection blocking and breath being important there. So that's probably tens of billions, but beneficial to so many diseases. mRNA has some great characteristics, so if we can add these other features in, that it's a good chance that will be the solution for HIV and malaria. And we can probably move faster to develop those vaccines than using any other technology.
And again,
so besides the global monitoring piece,
I don't want to move fast
the
and
next big
break
piece
things
is
when it
that
comes to
R&D
healthcare.
agenda. And then the
That
hardest
is the
piece,
wrong
which
attitude,
we've all
Bill.
been talking about, is the quality of the health systems in the countries themselves.
And that face right there.
And then there you go. You get a good face right at the end. Silly me.
Classic Bill Gates face right there. There you go. But so you heard from earlier he was doing a partnership thing with Pfizer and they were going to come together and da-da-da-da-da and stuff. Of course, they've already been kind of doing that in the first place. But now they're talking about the guy before that was the CEO of Pfizer started saying we're going to do mRNA with everything. And then here's Bill Gates talking about even more that he wants to do with this, HIV and all these other things, and that gene editing and mRNA is going to be the new thing that's going to save the whole world from disease. Well, wait a minute. Didn't we already have something in line for malaria, right? Don't we already have things like this? For
And
malaria and for some of these other different things, don't we already have that? I mean, again, we were even talking about the flu earlier, but now he's like malaria. It's like, haven't we kind of done a pretty good job of eradicating malaria in a lot of areas? Haven't we? I mean, I don't know. Is there any existing
I think that
things?
attitude is why Mr. Gates is not welcome in many countries.
Right. That's the point we're getting at, right? I mean, so. This is just the same thing. I just left it up to share. I forgot about it.
No, yeah. That's why I said leave it up.
See, some countries are using to give boosters to kill children. Countries are using to give boosters to kill children. Some countries are using to give boosters to kill children.
I mean, the sentence is kind of improper, but, you get the point.
God, it just it doesn't. It's like, oh my God. It's like, it's just right there. It's right there. Right there for you to see. And I guess it's not a laughing matter, but oh my God, it's just, the gaffes, the slips of the tongue, the Freudian slips. Like Biden's sitting there saying, this is the largest voter fortification. The word starts with F.
Are you kidding me?
Thing out there, right?
Why was that blocked? I just so happened to go in and it says the expert says like and subscribe to Koolfrogg, and he said this and it was actually blocked. Why was it
Apparently,
blocked?
liking and subscribing to Koolfrogg is no longer allowed.
F off! Everybody should make sure that they actually subscribe, like, and share this shit out, man.
Oh man! Speaking of banned videos. I had an account shut down for a meme being too spicy.
Was it an Amber Heard meme?
No, it wasn't an Amber Heard
I
meme.
wanted to ask when you all.
Oh, is this
Let me
timestamp on this
see
one too?
If the second copy of it's still up, it looks like it.
You might want to go full screen on this one too, Koolfrogg, in case somebody sees. Different.
No, it will. I was checking time frames and 35 seconds, huh? Ready?
All think we're going to move from this form factor to something that's on your face, glasses, and when computing's all on the edge.
All right, 50 seconds. Who wants to answer quickly? I think it will go. It will. First of all, it will definitely happen. I was talking about 6G earlier, which is around 2030.
6G.
I would say that by then, definitely the smartphone as we know it today will not anymore be the usual kind of the most common interface.
Wow.
Many of these things will be built directly into our bodies.
So there's that. That was from the World Economic Forum.
No.
This past week, and this just is other stuff. This just goes on to whatever. But
if we need a humor break, I have a spicy meme.
But you said you got it. You got yourself taken down. Why would I want to get myself taken down?
This copy stayed up
over a meme.
I mean, just the whole account shut down, but the second account is fine. It has over 100 views. You know you want to play it.
It has over 100 views. Oh, Mike. I'm going to have to watch this before I go in.
This one isn't even inappropriate.
But this bitch likes to take people down.
Yeah, but we're commentating on the quality of the meme space. This is 100% fair use.
But I already hate this lady.
All the more reason.
God, she's so freaking ugly. Look at her. Well, you can't. Let me show the screen first.
oh my god.
You just, I mean,
the ending's pretty good.
this lady right here.
We're commentating on a commentary that got turned into a meme that I shared because the person asked me to. Let's not overthink it.
So, Legal Bites, this is nothing against you. I just hate you personally.
I take full responsibility for my channel. I take full responsibility for the things that I say and that I do. And I don't want...
Except her apology video, which she totally tried to hide when it got ratioed.
Right. She went and she said that it was only up for a little while and it got where she needed to go.
Or, apologizing at all. Definitely didn't do that. So
nope.
I'm not seeing the accountability here.
Want anyone else to be taking hits on my behalf.
Due to copyright takedown notice we received, we had to take down your video from YouTube. Title, Let's Talk, Legal Bites, re-uploaded, video URL, YouTube, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Takedown issued by Legal Bites Media. Nasty, wretched thing. So there's you received a copyright strike. You now have one copyright strike. If you get multiple copyright strikes, you'll be disable your account. To prevent that from happening, please don't upload videos containing copyrighted content that you aren't allowed to use. Well, fair
And
use
just
in
to be
this.
clear, this spicy meme is 100% fair use because it's made for the purpose of social commentary using only short and relevant clips of other people's material.
Right. And if I pause this every 6 seconds or so, there ain't shit you can do about it.
We also have permission from the copyright holder.
They should have put the BYTE down at the one bite at a time. Oh no. No, it's effective strengths.
I don't want anyone else to be taking hits on the
It goes so perfectly, doesn't it? Like it looks like
Totally her beard. She must shave that on a daily.
Oh my god.
Whoops.
on my behalf. I take full responsibility.
You take full responsibility? Are you sure? I'll find out tomorrow.
This is all very amusing.
Oh my god. Oh, very good, very good. Thank you.
Once I saw that being shared on Discord, I couldn't help posting it on YouTube just to make sure the whole world could see it. And unlike some people, I got permission from the copyright holder before reposting things.
Who's the copyright holder on that?
Who knows? Some LawTube editor.
Oh, okay.
They didn't feel comfortable posting it on their own account, so I helpfully reposted it with permission.
Oh, that's good. That's funny. Dang, this is going to take me a while to actually get all these links in my description. I know
It's
I've
like,
been.
when are these people going to realize, stop Jack and Murphy yourself about everything? Like, that should be a
Right.
one-time deal, and you should be like, oh, shit, let's not go down that route. And then here's, like, all these
Whenever
people doing it.
you only have a shovel, everything looks like you should keep digging. I mean, Karen's going to Karen.
Amber's going to Amber.
Cut your finger off. It's like, Amber's gonna Amber.
Jeez.
Anyway, guess good for the night? Anything else you want to share before we cut out?
Nope, just wanted to lighten the mood a little bit. We got all serious, so let's have some bearded fun there.
some bearded fun. Oh my god.
All
Oh my
right.
god. Anyway.
Let's
Back to them, or do you want to stay with Donald Trump?
Fuck Joe Biden.